It's called a giant stride. And all of them were removed from almost every school that ever had one in the 1970s probably, because that piece of equipment made the list of the 10 most dangerous pieces of playground equipment ever invented.
Whoa.
And
it was also one of the most fun.
yes!
Ah.
So here is a drawing done by one of the FIOCs of the school when it existed. The school burned, I believe. When it opened, when it started, when it lapsed, when it opened again, when it lapsed again. Some of these schools, they were open and they were closed, and they were open and they were closed. Every picture that I've seen of a stagecoach in our collection, the driver has a whip. Some of them, when they're stopped, they just kind of lay it across their lap. And then the other thing that he carries, personal to him, is his hat. And you never give a driver a monetary tip. That is insulting. It's insulting to the company. It implies they're not being paid enough. But he'll gladly accept a cigar, a pair of gloves, a hat, something that he can use in his driving. Drivers always sit on the right-hand side of the coach, always. The shotgun sits on the left. And we have some pictures of one particular messenger, he was called, the shotgun. He has a message in his rifle. He always, the guy that we have the pictures of, he rode shotgun for the California-Oregon Stage Company, and he was assigned up here a lot of the time. And he had a very particular way of sitting. He was kind of stocky, and he sat sort of sideways with one leg crossed, and then his rifle was kind of tipped across his lap. And we got a little spot.
1892 to 1901, 10-year period of time, the community of Klamathon on the river and the big mill operated. Where they got their logs from, if we take the tour next year up Beswick Road, is from, they call the Pacagama Flat, up along the Oregon border, north of the Klamath River. Even though it's dry as you drive up the Klamath River, once you get up on that flat, it's got some pretty nice pine land. And they shot the logs. They had a railroad, which was interesting, a self-contained railroad. It didn't attach to anything. It just existed up there on Pacagama. They had to get the engine up using mules, dragging it up this gulch called Spanish Gulch. My family's Spanish, that's why I know a little bit about that. They got the little engine up there to get the logs to what they call the chute, the Klamath River chute, where they would throw it down into this chute coming off the bluff right into the Klamath River. Then the idea was that those logs were going to be herded down the river by log herders to the Klamathon mill, and that's how the Klamathon mill was going to get all of their logs. It wasn't very efficient if there was floods. They lost a lot of logs, and then in 1902 the whole Klamathon burned down. So that led you up to 1902. Well, about that time they said, well, we're not going to rebuild the Klamathon mill. What we're going to do is, because the railroad is here, we're going to build another railroad up to the Pacagama Flat, where I said they were doing the logging, and it was going to take off the main line, that's the main line right here, at the place they called Laird's or Thrall, right here. So, right here, there was another spur that took off. You can see the road right over there, that would have been the spur. It goes up to this little tiny dry ridge right in front of us, makes a sharp right, and goes all the way up the Klamath River. As you drive up the Klamath River toward the old Iron Gate Reservoir, you can see it all along the river there. It went underneath Iron Gate Lake, underneath to Fall Creek. And then it started to climb up. And there were some beautiful trestles. There's photographs of these trestles of the railroad grade getting up to Pacagama. Once the railroad got up there, then they were able to pull the logs all the way down here, connect with the main line, and then either take them south or north. So the railroad really changed everything, and the ability to get logs around and not having to shoot them into the river and then push them down the river with people in boats. So anyway, a long story short, this was an important place for a short period of time. Once the railroad got over to Klamath Falls, used to be called Linkfield, then they changed to Klamath Falls. Once the railroad got over there, that changed everything, because then it would made a lot more sense for them to log the area I'm talking about in the Pacagma area from the Klamath Falls side. So all of this didn't make any sense that I just talked about. So a lot of things. Klamathon lasted 10 years. This lasted a number of years, not very many. And whenever you have a brand new, either a highway or railroad, whatever, it changes everything. It changes all the infrastructure. And this is an example of what happened.
Robert was through. He got on the hind boot of the stagecoach and told the driver to drive on. Soon the rattle of the stage going in the opposite direction was heard, and the robber commanded the driver from the hind boot to stop, and also, when he passed the other stage, not to stop or say a word to its driver. The robber then got off, skipped through the brush, and went on until he met the other stage and robbed it. The robber asked the one passenger on the stage how much money he had. He replied he had only $60 and he was a laboring man. The robber said, "Let me see your hands." And when the passenger showed his rough-fisted hands, the robber said, "Keep it, I'm not robbing poor people." Oil tank, not a water tank, for the train, I think.
By the way, just one back up. One of the reasons why Hornbrook was important, kind of like Dunsmuir, this is where you start going over the Siskiyous, and so they had to add engines, and then they did servicing and this and that. Kind of the same way as Dunsmuir. They had to add engines on at Dunsmuir to get the trains up the canyon.
Yeah, they needed the pusher engines. So, that enlarged picture, which is really tiny on your handout, shows those buildings over there. And when we drive back down there, that big tall cement building that you can see, the two-story one, that was there at the time. And then there's a empty space where the other little stores, they were burned. And the little building, you probably looked at it and saw, it looks kind of oriental. That was the T. Jones cash store. And they had one here in Hornbrook and one in Henley. And I posted a picture and I called it the T. Jones cheap cash store, because that's what was on the sign. But it was only on the sign in the one in Henley, because the person who lived in Hornbrook said, "We never called it that. Never called it that." But that building is still there, and people are fixing it up. And I think in our photo collection online, we have pictures of the interior of this. Cottonwood/Henley was first before Hornbrook. And so you'll see it called Henley Hornbrook because they were kind of like Siamese twins almost.
Henley was there because of the gold mining. Hornbrook was there because of the railroad.
Yeah.
It came later.
And the town of Henley, what Beth said when we did the cemetery tour, she said the town of Henley, some of the buildings were pretty much where the gas station is we were just at. So that was kind of located over there. So the stage road went through Henley and maybe a little piece of Hornbrook, kind of near our ranch. We're not going to drive it, but I'll tell you how to get to it, because I only just discovered it about 2 months ago. It makes sense that it is where it is, but I didn't make the connection. So